All right, bang, bang. Today is Thursday. It is November 11th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. Special guest today joining me here on the couch from Detroit, Michigan.
Lansing, technically.
Technically. Okay. Lansing, Michigan. We have Chris Castellani. Chris, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me.
Of course, buddy. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, so obviously you came on Redline Radio that one day, and we've just been texting back and forth, and I just kind of want to have you on. I used to kind of do this more. I've had Spider on. I've had a lot more Barstool employees on just to kind of chop it up and hear more about them. And you're still new-ish, I would say. Is that fair?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I don't know when it's going to sink in. I'll probably always consider myself new-ish to a certain extent. Yeah.
Chris, it took me forever to get to that point where it's like, wait, people actually click on my name on the blog, and they're like entertained.
I feel that completely. Yeah.
Yes, it took me forever to get to that point. So I completely understand, but no, honestly, I'm a big fan of yours.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
And it's great to have you here. So I started watching those. You do the Tiger reviews, and it's one of those things too, and it's so weird how it works. And I do the Bears thing too.
Yeah.
So when people tell you like, oh, you watch those, and like people have no connection to the Bears, no connection to the Tigers, I'm always confused. But watching yours, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I kind of understand, because I like to see kind of what the scouting report is of the Tigers,
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's so rewarding to hear from people who are like, man, I don't even have any attachment to the Tigers, but I watch your stuff. I mean, that means a lot. It's the greatest happy accident ever, because like to be honest, I just did it for me at first. I was just like, I just want to do this because I don't have anybody else to talk to. So I want to talk Tiger baseball. And what it became was something I completely never expected. But, dude, it's awesome. I mean, it's crazy that people have responded to it the way that they have. I love doing it. I mean, I see myself making Tigers videos, forever. I don't see myself ever getting bored with it or wanting to do something else.
God, it's interesting that. Because I've been I don't know. We'll circle back to this, because I do have a point I want to make about that.
Sounds good.
I appreciate you about you as well. Before we get into it, though, I do want to talk about Roman. Chris, you ever heard of Roman products?
Of course, through you guys, of course.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, Chris is listening. He hears it. If you're out there and you're listening, you've tried different ways to last longer in bed, stop doing it. There's no reason to, because Roman is here for you. Don't use these old methods of trying to last longer, because Roman is clinically proven is a way to last longer in bed. They're effective, they're easy to use, and they're fast acting, but they don't require a prescription. Roman can ship swipes to you in discreet, unmarked packaging, and each swipe packet is small enough to hide in your wallet for whenever you need it. They're super easy to use. Just take the swipe out of the packet, swipe it on, let it dry. You're good to go. That's it. All you have to do is go to GetRoman.com/walk, and you can get your first month of swipes for just $5 when you choose a monthly plan. That's GetRoman.com/walk. Make sure you're getting on those. I mean, there's no reason not to, right, Chris? Everyone wants to do better.
Of course. I feel you, man. Completely.
So go over there, get some Roman swipes. GetRoman.com/walk, and make sure you're taking care of yourself. First and foremost, though, so you have been in. So you got. I know the Spencer Turnbull situation.
Yeah.
How you got hired? Your story is unique. Tell it if you don't mind.
Well, I mean, I was working at a gas station for 2 years, and I'd been making Tiger videos on social media for, 2017 was the first year I started doing it, which there's an irony to that, because that was the first official year of, the godforsaken rebuild that the Tigers have gone through forever. So I picked a hell of a time to start doing it. I'm yet to cover a good Tigers team. Maybe we'll get there. Hopefully next year. Sign Cabrera. We'll see what happens. But no, and I was waking up at 7:45 for 8 o'clock shifts, and doing my thing. And it wasn't like I was completely independent. I'd been working. I've been doing some podcasts for the Tigers, and I'd been working for a Michigan-based website for a minute too. And the story is, I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. I mean, I could live to be 1,000 years old. I'll probably never have a crazier 24 hours where it was 7:45 in the morning. The thing that people forget, that Turnbull threw a no-hitter on the West Coast. So it was a 10 o'clock game that ended. I probably got to bed around 2:30, 3 o'clock, because I had a podcast to do as well. So I'm running on fumes. I'm in 4.5 hours of sleep. I wake up. Dave's in my DMs, right? And doesn't have the blue check mark. So I'm thinking, this guy fucking with me. This is some hack, some troll. Hilarious. Yeah. And so he's like, hey, do you want to cover Michigan for us? So I'm wiping shit out of my eyes, just being like, oh, okay, fine. I'm going to the gas station. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Of course. I'm not going to say no. And people are coming in buying their cigarettes and coffee, and this is the part I haven't told, is that I texted my father, and I was like, man, Dave Portnoy just reached out to me. And then 5 minutes later, I get a text from my mom saying, Dad left his phone at home, so he has no access of getting back to you. And I'm like, well, he picked a hell of a day to do it. So I then a few hours later, I get a call from my dad, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, you won't believe this. Dave just reached out to me because of the no-hitter last night. He goes, Chris, stop. What no-hitter? Like, Spencer Turnbull threw a no-hitter last night. And he's like, oh my, are you serious? So I think it was an 8 o'clock to 1 a.m. shift.
And he's a big Tiger fan too.
Oh yeah, no, he grew up with him. Yeah, no, I mean, he was 99.9% of the time he would be aware of what happened. He just left his phone at home. So I get a call around probably 10, 11 o'clock from Dave, and my boss at Speedway, who I'm gonna love forever, and I go in there to say hi to him, Scott, who was so good to me. I get a call, and I'm like, Scott, I gotta take this, man. So I'm in Speedway. I'm getting the call. And, I was thinking at the time, I'm like, I'm going to have to sell myself here. I'm going to have to sell my content. And, it seemed like, he did something of a deep dive, and, there was very little negotiation. So I walked back inside Speedway, and, they're like, hey, I think I just got offered a job. And so I come home in the afternoon, and it's a crazy story. And a lot of people, I've had people say it, debate this part of the story, but it's honest to God true that this whole thing happened in a matter of about 6 hours. I went from working at a gas station to working for Barstool Sports in about 6 hours. I mean, it was no plan. There was no leverage. There was nothing like that. I mean, they sent me the contract, and I am fortunate enough to have family members who deal with that stuff. And I thought that was going to be the hardest part of the negotiation, where I was going to have to go through the contract. I was going to have to ask Dave or Eric a million questions that I didn't really have. They put it in front of me. I was going to sign it right away, but I have people in my life who hold back a little bit.
Of course.
So no, it was about, man, it happened. It was probably around 5 o'clock. I signed it, and the rest of that day, I still was still very it's still a blur to me, because it's all of a sudden, because this is the other funny part is that I texted Dave being like, all right, deal signed. When are you going to make the announcement? He was like, dude, I tweeted 5 minutes ago. And he sends me the text, and all of a sudden I'm hearing bing, bing in my phone, all this. And that moment, really stands out, where it's all of a sudden you have people coming at you, and it took me about a full week to enjoy it, because it becomes really overwhelming when you're hearing from people you haven't heard from in years. And my parents are like, let's go out, let's grab a beer, let's celebrate. And I'm just trying to get back to as many people as I can. I gotta, it took a minute, to really let the whole thing sink in. And there was stages of it. I got a call, from a friend of mine, because my family and I were out, and we went to grab a drink, and there was a moment where they called, and it was a very emotional thing. And I'm going to try to get through this.
Yeah. Hey, listen.
But
however you feel, man.
It was I got a call from a friend of mine at the time, and it was a very emotional thing, because they started crying, and then I started crying, and it was something that I had built up to for a long time, and those moments they stand out to me as very emotional. It's the hiring itself was amazing, but seeing the outpouring of support from people. I mean, you really don't know how much people really care about the content you create, and until that. I mean, I hadn't paid attention to this, but somebody at the website that I'd worked for said that "Congrats, Chris" was trending in at least Lansing, if not the state of Michigan. It was that was, there was a million holy shit moments that didn't really. I would say it wasn't until about a week and a half later, when I was at a Tiger game. I had the fortune of being able to interview and talk to Spencer Turnbull, and I went to a game that night. Robbie Grossman hit a 2-run walk-off home run, and I just remembered saying to my buddy, this is the greatest heater of my life. This is irreplaceable. And that whole regardless of what happens from here, that whole experience was I'll never forget it forever. I mean, it's a grateful journey.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, West Coast no-hitter, you just do a video, a good thing happened.
Yeah.
And it made Dave laugh. Next thing you know, you're at your gas station job and you have a job and everybody's happy for you because your opportunity came at a moment that you weren't even ready for. I'm sure.
And the other part too is that my boss at Speedway, like he was, after I told him about Barstool, he looked him up and he's like, oh yeah, these are the guys. I've heard of these guys. But I gave him my 2 weeks, and I worked those 2 weeks. And people started coming into Speedway being like, man, I saw you on Twitter. Like, you just got hired by a place. And it took him a minute to be like, this really is a big deal, isn't it? I'm like, you have no clue, man. This is the dream. Yeah.
Yeah. What is, how was Speedway? So were you sitting there like just grinding it out on the side, doing your podcast and your
I did morning shifts because I didn't want to miss Tiger games. I mean, so I would, so I would like, especially after college, when I was going to bed at 2 and waking up at 2, like it became a lot different because I'm like, I don't want to miss games. I have not.
So morning overnight, you mean? Or
No. It was like 8:45 or 7:45 to like 1 o'clock. So, I mean, it was like these 5 hours. It was a part-time gigs. And then I had 2 part-time gigs with MaizenBrew.com and doing Locked On Tigers podcast as well. So, I mean, I had a stable enough income at the time, but my mainstay was Speedway, doing these, 5-hour a day shifts Monday through Friday. Because then if I could work till 1, and even if there was a day game, I wouldn't be able to miss it. But yeah, I mean, I kept a lot of that stuff private until the very, very end. Because, it never really came up in conversation. And then finally, once things started to leak out, and I remember even up before Barstool, there was kind of movement in some other places. And there was for some reason, West Coast games this year. I've been defined by West Coast games this year. Like Michigan basketball was playing in the Elite Eight against UCLA for 9:57 start time. And the next day, I came into Speedway. And you know that meme of Jimmy Butler after Game 5 of the finals where he's like hunched over? That was me. That was me at the register. And my boss, I love the guy to death. He was just like, you're tired, aren't you? And I'm like, man, I had to do a podcast till 2 o'clock last night. He goes, Castellani, go home. Like, I mean, it got to a point where the grind was becoming real. But it just becomes so like, the amount of weight that's lifted off your shoulders when you have that financial security and that job security of knowing like you work at the place you want to work at. I mean, it's incredibly rewarding.
Totally. And now I know you said, so you went to Central Michigan. You're wearing the shirt?
Yes. I mean, I went there for several years. Yeah. Yeah. I did not graduate. No.
And did you always want to do the content thing, or were you?
Yeah. No, there was never, I would say in the early stages of my development, my original goal was I wanted to make movies. That changed fairly quickly, and I still have an incredible passion for film. I still review movies on YouTube, but it pretty quickly, probably by freshman year of college, I mean, it became obvious that like I knew where my path was. I think that people who argued with me at the lunch table in high school can attest to the fact that like, it was always sports from the beginning, and I mean, it was a slow burn where like I knew. I had a pretty good gauge on the fact that I felt like I was pretty good at it. I felt like I knew what I was doing, at least in terms of analyzing the game, analyzing sports, being objective, which is something I take very seriously. And so over time, I started to feel better about it. But I'd be lying. Like there were days of serious doubt. I mean, there were, especially post-COVID when nothing was opened up. I'm like, where are we going with this? I'm 25 years old. I would like to be able to move out of my house. I would like to, have somewhat of a stable living.
Yep.
I didn't really know where to go, and then nothing happened, and then everything happened, and my life changed. Yeah.
Hey, let's take a quick break here to talk about Upstart. You guys know Upstart by now. You have all those things in your mind if you didn't have to pay these high interest loans or credit card debt. Well, with Upstart, you can pay off the existing debt quickly and easily to start living your life. Because Upstart's a fast and easy way to pay off your debt with a personal loan that's all done online. Whether it's paying off credit cards, consolidating high-interest debt, or funding personal expenses, over 1 million people have used Upstart to get one fixed monthly payment with a clear payoff date. Rather than looking at a credit score alone, Upstart considers other factors like your income, current employment, and credit history to find you a smarter rate for your loan. You can check your rate without impacting your credit score in minutes for loans between $1,000 to $50,000, and you can even receive the funds as fast as one business day after accepting your loan. So, find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/Eddie. That's upstart.com/Eddie, EDDIE. Don't forget to use our URL to let them know we sent you. Loan amounts, once again, will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Upstart.com/Eddie. Let's start being smarter about that debt today. All right, let's hop back into Chris. It's tough, man. People don't realize how tough it was.
Yeah.
I was in the sports industry too before I was with Barstool, and it's a grind, and you don't really know where the road takes you. So it is. I definitely understand the jubilation you had once you got that call. So that's unbelievable. And so was this? I guess. After you talked to Dave, where did things go from there? So you just what were you supposed to do? Did you have no one has a general idea?
Well, I mean, the idea was like we want you to cover as much Michigan stuff as possible. Yeah. I took that as do what you're best at. Like, and I know what I'm good at. I know where my strengths lie. I've been doing this long enough to know where like could I write weekly blogs after every Detroit Lions game? I could. They'd be fine, but I want to do what I think is best for the audience at Barstool. And so I do my Tigers blogs, and I do my baseball stuff, and I post about my movie stuff. And, if I have something to say about other Detroit sports, I'm happy to do it. I think that, confidence is something like I've always struggled with. I remember like I was very hesitant about writing about Michigan State stuff for a long time. And, but I felt like my blogs, both before the Michigan State game and after, I thought were pretty solid and pretty good. I read a comment by somebody that said, I think Castellani's really talented. He's just trying to figure out a way to come out of his shell. And, I mean, yeah, they nailed it. I mean, I'm still learning here, but at the same time, I don't post anything unless I believe in what I'm saying, unless I believe in my content. And there's going to be things I'm going to put out that people aren't going to be receptive to, and that's totally fine. I'm still really learning here. I mean, it is still crazy to me that I feel like I'm inside the television screen here, getting to know people and work with people that I've known about for a long time. There's still a process to it that I'm adjusting to, but it's a good problem to have.
Totally. And that's what I want to circle back to is that you'll always be the way you wanted. You see it objectively.
Yeah.
And because when they lost to Michigan State, you were I don't know the right way to say it. You were just kind of like, you were congratulatory towards your friends you're around, and you're just like, oh, it sucks, but like it's life.
Part of it is Michigan football has broken me down for a long time. So it's if this was 2007, I may be a little bit more heartbroken. But what I come down to is I think that like a celebration or a championship with nobody who's happy for you is not like a celebration at all. I think that, I really care about, how I conduct myself. Because, I mean, I'm 26 years old. I've had a remarkable amount of fuck-ups. And people who've known me and who have met me can attest to that. I've done a lot of growing over the last 4 or 5 years. There's been people I've run into that have said, man, you seem a lot different. And it's because I've grown. I've changed a lot. And so, like, I really I care a lot about how I come across to people. Like, if the Tigers won the World Series, I'd be in a puddle on the ground crying. Like, I'm not going to act like I'm going to be apathetic towards every single sporting moment that comes my way. But at the same time, I think that, like, now that I have this job, it's about a lot more than representing Chris Castellani. I'm representing the company I work for. I'm representing my boss. I'm representing a lot of people who have bought into me and believed in me. Yeah. And to me, like, the way you conduct yourself really, really matters. Not to mention that video that you're talking about. That day in East Lansing, my team lost and it sucked, and I wish they wouldn't have blown a 16-point lead. Like, I could have done without that, but like, that was one of the best days ever. Like, that was a place that I grew up in, and people were there celebrating, at the Barstool show, a company that I work for. I mean, even just to be an iota, just a part of that, is an incredible feeling. I mean, it's amazing. And like, I woke up at 6:45 that day, and I got to bed at 2:45 a.m. And I was grateful for the whole thing. Were there things I would have done differently? Sure, but like, that's a small price to pay for working for a company that you believe in and for people that you genuinely care about. It's great. Yeah.
And that's what, and I think there was another video too where someone was like, "Oh, I thought there'd be more," and you're just like, "Hey, I'm not gonna fake my reaction."
Yeah, you know what it was? It was Miguel Cabrera's 500th home run.
Yes, that's right.
That's the thing with the Tigers. Here's the thing, man. Look, and people made a big deal out of that. I want to win every fucking game. Yeah. That's my thing. Like, I want to win the game. So like, Miggy Homer hit his 500th home run in Rogers Center. That made it a 1-1 game. So internally, I'm saying to myself, all right, let's win this thing. Like, I want to win a series. I've had enough with the rebuilding Tigers. We lost 114 games 2 years ago. Let's win a game. So, yeah, I mean, it would be – and there, people posted their reactions, and it was cool, and that was fine. But I was like, yeah, internally I'm like, I want to – this won't mean as much if we don't come out with a W. Now, miraculously, they ended up doing it. Marcus Semien made an error with 2 outs that allowed the Tigers to end up winning that game. But, yeah, no, I mean, I have benefited from being genuine almost to a fault, and for a long time I wondered if I was on the wrong path with that. I've been fortunate enough that people bought into what I was doing, and it's made for a really rewarding experience. Yeah,
because that's something that it can fuck with you, because that's fucked with me before, because I kind of in a roundabout way, I have a longer story where I was an intern for 5 years or whatever, but really what kind of put me in Dave's radar was a reaction video to that first Bears-Packers game, Khalil Mack's debut.
Yeah,
and
18, right?
Yeah, 18. Yeah. I was just fired up, and I was just screaming into the camera during halftime and at the end. And now where the Bears are at now, I am in a very apathetic stage where I'm like, man, and people are like, oh, you got to do this, and it's like, just not. But I'm just not at that point where I want to do that, and I'd rather be real than just be mad and give crazy rants then.
Yeah.
But the difference is, and I'm sure you're realizing this too, is that's the shit that will get likes and retweets, and that's how you kind of build your profile. But it is kind of like a catch-22 of sorts.
I think with the internet too, people on the internet can spot phoniness.
Yes.
Really, they can tell when somebody's being genuine, when somebody's not. And there's ebbs and flows to it. If 3 years from now the Bears are in the NFC Championship game, I'm sure you'll be losing your mind, rightfully so. I mean, it's the way I look at it too is there's things change with different teams. I remember when I was growing up, in 6th, 7th grade, Michigan basketball, was a joke. The Chrysler Arena was some dimly lit dump. They won, Beeline's first year, they won 8 games. Now, I got a whole, blog that's probably, that's prepped to come out where it's I feel like this might be the best team on paper they've ever had. And it's I'm going to be watching every game like it's the Final Four. It's there are those ebbs and flows to it. You can't get too attached because you're going to end up losing your mind. But when a team is close and when a team is really good, it changes how you view the entire season. It's different. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. People could spot phoniness, but sometimes they can't, and that's probably the maybe one of the most frustrating parts. Maybe not one of the most frustrating, but it is a frustrating aspect where it's how is this working? When you see that.
Yeah. Well, I think a thing that happened with me too, and people who have been around for a long time can attest to this, is back in the day, when I was in college. It was all rants, because I was fucking 21 years old. I was in college. It was a much different place in my life, personally, professionally, socially. I don't even identify with that person. I think what's happened with me and this is something I'm really proud of, is the fact that there's been growth where because you can't, one-trick ponies have their 15 minutes of fame, then they're out. You have to evolve at some point and do stuff that's different. And there's been a lot of Tigers games where they've lost in excruciating fashion, where I've been calm. There's been games where I've been angry. You have to grow in your content in some way. I think that's something that, as a company, Barstool's done a great job of doing. Even since when I first discovered Barstool, became a fan of Barstool in 2016. The change that the company's gone through in the last 5 years is substantially different than it was, when I, became a fan. You have to grow and evolve eventually.
Yeah, I hear you, and it sounds like you got a good perspective on that from where you started. So
thank you.
What else about you that, I know you like movies, but I don't think you've really, besides sports, is there anything else you like in movies?
I don't get out much. This is my content is kind of my life. I have I have a long list of things that I've kind of gone through in my life, personal achievements, struggles, whatever. I've been at points, and people, I don't think I've told anybody at Barstool this, but last year around this time, I had a very severe mental health, I'm not going to say breakdown, but crisis, and I was off social media for about 4 or 5 months. When Dave called me, I had been back on social media for about a month, maybe 2. And the discussions were had with my family of all right, what's the next step? Because it's not going to be sports broadcasting. The dream's been there, gave it a shot. Maybe you come back to it. So it's as far as the other things I'm into, I'm focused on Barstool right now. You know, there's things I would definitely change, but when you're in my position, and especially having met the people that I've met, and it's where it does become an emotional thing where you meet people at ball games or in East Lansing, at Comerica, wherever, and they say like, you know, we appreciate you representing Detroit, and it's like, man, I don't even know what that means. Like I just make videos, man. It's just I just want to do what I do. But when you hear that, it makes you take on another sense of responsibility about your content and where you're going. It makes you want to be a better person. Like I think I've been fortunate enough to have developed a reputation as somebody who's like relatively like Midwest kind. I don't know what that means really, but like I don't. I know one gear, and it's how to act like me, and that's that is both a positive and a negative. But I don't know how to be anybody else, you know. So it makes for what has been the craziest like 5-6 months of my life ever. Yeah.
Well, that's definitely been the most successful route at Barstool from what I've seen.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for
just
sure.
You, it's kind of that's the way to roll. Because once you get caught up in that gimmick, that act, it's hard to get out of that.
It is, and I mean, I think that one of the biggest problems that somebody in this position can get themselves into is to not acknowledge how lucky they are too. I mean, like I always believed in my abilities, but at the same time, the stars align. So, like Turnbull doesn't throw a no hitter, we might not be having this conversation.
Same thing,
like I said, I believed in what I was capable of, but stars align sometimes, and things things fall into place. I think the worst thing you can do is to overlook something like that and overlook how lucky you are to be in a position. Because I mean, I can tell you how many people who've messaged me and been like, how do I get a job at Barstool? And I'm like, I don't know how I got a job at Barstool. So it's like, I can't really give like an exact explanation. I know I'm incredibly fortunate, and I know people around me are incredibly fortunate, and this is where I want to be. But I think the second you overlook that, you kind of like lose your head a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Totally. Yeah. It's fucked up in a weird way. The Packers beating the Bears in that week 1 was like one of the best things.
It is weird. It is weird how that works, right? Where it's like in hindsight, that loss turned out to be like the most beneficial thing.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I've thought about that a lot, so it's wild.
Yeah.
Because I fucking hate the Packers, obviously.
And I remember I watched that game, I think at a Williamsburg, Virginia airport, and we got on the flight when you guys were up like 17. I'm like, Bears are going to be pretty good this year. And then I come off the flight, and it's like, fucking Aaron Rodgers again. I mean, he's killed the Lions enough. We know about this.
Of course.
Yeah.
Do you miss Speedway at all?
I go back there every so often. You know, I
But was there a simplicity about it, or was this like?
I really liked my boss, and I liked the people I worked with. They were very kind. People can be assholes. I mean, it's customers at least.
Yeah.
But I'm very appreciative of that experience, because I think that maybe it's a Midwest thing, but I feel like you have to have a job like that at some point to like harden you and humble you. Yeah. Like I don't think that I would have gotten to a point where I was emotionally or intellectually mature enough to work at Barstool if I didn't work 2 years at a gas station. Like you learn that grind. You're waking up at 7:45. I can't tell you how many days I woke up and said, "What the fuck am I doing with my life?" And then you get here. I go back and visit them and I say hi. I'm proud of the fact that I worked there. I think to me that's a huge part of my story, as has been a million other things. Like all those. I think if there's a single thing about my life that's changed over the last 26 years, I wouldn't be here. I get to Barstool, as frustrating as it is, and still continues to be. I mean, I think that's one misconception, is like you get a job like this, all of a sudden you're happy and your mental illnesses go away. That's not the case. But if I had to, would I do it again to get here? 100 times over, $1,000,000%, absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, good, man. It's good to have you. That's what I said. I was watching this stuff, and I was telling those guys, like, we got to get this guy on Redline Radio. I was like, there's a different dynamic he could bring. I think he's good. And, you're just an easy guy to root for. So.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I was telling you guys out there to tell the listening audience here that, like, when you grow up, if you get like an A+ on a test, your parents like put it on the fridge. Mm-hmm. I never experienced that. I was a B student. So, like, Cara wrote that piece about me after I was on Redline Radio, which I have no gauge in like how I do in that stuff. I came out of it, I'm like, that's good, and you guys were so receptive to it. And now that blog is currently hanging on my parents' fridge right now. Like I got an A+ on a test. So no, you guys have been so good to me, man. I appreciate you having me. It means a lot.
Awesome. Yeah, man. You're only a stone's throw away. So
I appreciate that.
Anytime,
of course.
this office is yours too. So
thank you, buddy.
Anytime. It's great to have you in. We'll hop in. We'll do some more of these. So we'll figure out some more stuff. Maybe talk some movies another time.
Absolutely. Dude.
Whatnot. Get a little deeper about you and everything like that. And but this was a good start. Just keep being you, I guess.
I'll do the best I can. I don't know how to be anybody else, so I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Sounds like you know that. So that's a great way to start. So.
Thanks, Eddie. I appreciate that.
All right, everybody. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll see you then.